Bacon, bacon, bacon. Whoop. Free-range chickens, not eating any soy, not eating any kind of stuff. They're eating all the bugs.
Checking here, we got our scuffed setup. So, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Well, so my name is Thomas. I grew up in Norway. I grew up in Oslo, the capital, and everybody has their own coping mechanism for the lack of purpose. The Norwegian way of going about that is just not talking about it, really. You see, other cultures might have like they meet every Sunday, or they have like these formal parties, and then maybe they talk about, they gossip about stuff, but then they also talk about more deeper issues, and it might be more open. They'll have like their extended family friends or something like that, or other friends that they go to, and then they talk about the deeper issues. But yeah, in Norway it seems like that is something you never talk about. Like, you don't talk about your marriage, you don't talk about your sex life, you don't talk about if you're fighting, if you're having economic problems. Yeah. You see that a lot here with marriages, is that people go into debt because they don't want to admit that they don't have the capital in order to fund the marriage. So they're like, let's take up a loan and then just pretend that we have the money, even though we don't. Some people obviously are anti-religion, but I think most people in general just are basically agnostics, and they just, I don't know what's right, so whatever. That's their kind of mentality. And as long as I play the social game of having like real estate and all these materialistic things, then I'm good. I have a good car, I have a family, I have a house, I have a good job. Boom, done. I have a good education. That's basically it. So that's like the social game you're playing.
Join in, boys. George?
Yeah.
Most of the residents of America come from somewhere else. The same applies to my history. I was raised in the Midwest. Everyone has a different idea of where the Midwest is. Is Ohio included? Well, what about Nebraska? But if you find yourself in endless flat countryside, with fields of corn, soybeans, and patches of woods, you probably arrived. America itself is a country unlike any other. America spans 2,800 miles from Atlantic to Pacific and contains an unmatched variety of biomes. That's not even to consider Alaska and Hawaii and its outposts and military bases around the world, consisting of cultures and peoples from all corners of the planet, and factions with extreme differences in religious beliefs, moral values, and political interests across its hundreds of millions of inhabitants. The United States exists in a sort of perpetual contradiction. American life is itself defined by a continual state of identity crisis. I've moved a lot in recent years, and the strange thing about moving is that it forces you to ask what you are rooted in beyond a local community or circle of friends. I started to look to history for answers, and I decided to see how my kin and cousins across the Atlantic have fared since my great-grandparents left those Scandinavian shores in need of scarce farmland in an adjacent Anglo-Saxon culture.
Ja, hvor gjør det, ja? Det må loade inn først. Vent litt.
Faen, du var dårlig nett, ass. Faen, ta så skjerp deg.
Du, jeg er jo midt i ingenmannsland nå, da. Så...
Faen, hallo. Hallo.
Jeg var nede i høyre hjørne, da. No, I've always been a big gamer, and a lot of people game because that's not only is that somewhere where you could, be completely alone, and it's very practical in order to gain status within that. Becoming good, becoming skilled in the game is something where it doesn't require much. You just turn on your console, you turn on your computer, and you just sit there for hours. And, it's perfectly, aligned with our dopamine system, doing something, doing a small thing, and then you get a cool sword, or you get like everything that we are supposed to do in nature are like perfectly encapsulated in a video game, because then instead of developing strategies for how to maximize the bounty of our hunt, or how to maximize, how to build something, or how to create a new tool, or how to lead our small societies, or just like going to the gym, you gotta figure out exactly what macronutrients I need, and what type of weights I need to lift, and how much, and with how many reps, and all that. That's the same as playing a video game, right? It's so nice. So just have my headset on, go in the forest, like literally climb up the side of just going complete monkey mode, listening to music, just basically walking really fast through the forest, just listening to a podcast, just mindlessly going through the forest like this,
Todd Howard was really cooking when he made this place. It's kind of strange to be in a place that your ancestors have been for 10,000 years.
Right, planet Earth.
It's strangely really familiar.
Hey. That just got drenched.
I don't know, there's a strange sort of magic to the landscape here. Just everything about it just kind of feels right. It's hard to describe, but something about it just feels correct. Like everything's how it should be.
It's not really stiff enough. I gotta take a different one.
Oh, you got it.
This is a funny dog.
They build dogs differently here. They fetch rocks instead of sticks. Don't worry, if you fall, I'll catch it on video.
Shit.
Det er så kult. Jeg har det i Norge.
Yep. Rolling.
All right, Guter. All right, Guter. No balls.
No balls.
See what happens.
Oi.
Hello. Let's go.
I was gonna say, this is the landscape has to be the same, right?
Well, it's a much more dramatic version
Right.
of the landscape I grew up in. But things such as, the farms near Oslo,
Uh-huh.
I was looking out, kind of in the flatter areas,
Yeah,
and
it's a
thinking,
lot-
oh, this
yeah.
looks like just where I grew up.
You mentioned culture a lot. Culture is one of the things that have sort of disconnected, and the other is, I think, religion. Now, I don't think religion went away. I think we can all agree that all societies are religious. It's just sort of what religion do you subscribe to? And we moved away from Christianity to placing, well, I guess the state as the sort of religious center, or what's nowadays called DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, or whatever you want to call sort of the AJAR-isms that's sort of permeating throughout all of society. That's sort of become the religion, in a sense, for a lot of people. Those who can't find it in that have to try to find it somewhere else. Some find it in Taylor Swift, apparently. Others find it in actual religion, sort of conversion, and try to move back to that, which is, great if that's possible. But that's certainly something that's sort of disconnecting people. And then there's the culture as well, especially for a country like Norway, whose culture has sort of been superseded by the American culture. I mean, we still have our own culture underneath. It's just sort of like they've just painted over everything with, American colors. And that makes for a very schizophrenic people.
But yeah, so you've been to New York, you've been to Florida, you've been to DC.
Yeah, there was a lot about New York that I didn't like.
Did you go with a group?
Yeah, exactly. With the group of friends and so on. And yeah, for us Norwegians, it's like, yeah, it's too big, way too big. And yeah, like everything about New York, like the smell, the culture and so on. It was very weird.
It's like a PvP zone.
Yeah.
In a video game.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of, yeah, it's the feeling you get when you are in America. It's but that it's probably because it's a lot bigger population.
Yeah.
But like a lot more weird people. Like that was kind of our experience. But it was like insane. Like we had people screaming all over the
It's a madhouse.
Yeah, running around like half naked and so on. And we were like, what's going on? So
Like, how is this the world superpower?
yeah, that's the question we ask ourselves.
Do you think we're in a period now where there's not so much national culture as much as we're now in kind of a networked culture where, let's say, you and I are part of this similar spheres on the internet, or we follow in similar cultural circles.
Right.
But someone down the street from me, we may be living in totally different worlds, values, and perceptions.
I think that's a big part of, the political unrest side of things is just the difference of perspective on reality that the internet creates, especially with, we talked a bit about TikTok. I think that was off camera, but I've said many times that sort of the algorithmic sort of boxes that TikTok tends to put you in is going to do a lot of damage to the sort of that generation once they grow up, because they're going to build their identity around very hyper-specific niches.
Guys, Trump was edging Biden, but he broke the rules.
And they're not going to be able to relate those niches to anyone around them in the physical world, right? Now, it's probably not going to be like a massive problem, but it's just one more layer of sort of communication difficulty between someone who, as you said, lives literally next door to you, right? Who should, in theory, have the same cultural reference as you, but they're not. They've been reading, a different forum to you, or not even that, because a forum you can decide to read. They've just been put in a different algorithmic box, so they're a tanky.
Yeah.
Getting the full, authentic Norway experience here.
Circle K.
What do we get?
We've got a pink prime, bro.
We are locked in.
Your life sucks. Optimize your sleep, work out 3 times a week, make a schedule for your free time every day, and eat some saturated fats and come back to me, right? It's and then like some motivational TikTok sound, and this one I got 120 likes on, not too much, but still 1,100 views. It's enough to have a niche, a little small community, and so I would just give out general information. People would comment, and then I would give them more in-depth personal advice. I've been a part of like a very niche community online where it's like kind of right-wing focused area, but it's more focused on, I've become more focused on just Christianity and God, right? And I've just kind of moved out of the whole politics scene. But so TikTok, I saw this huge demand of young men. They needed a purpose. They wanted a leader. They wanted someone to show them the passion in life. They wanted something. They saw something in my content where it's like, this is something that we humans have forgotten. This is something we don't have in our society anymore.
Prove to yourself that you have the strength and the courage to be free.
TikTok, I saw this huge demand of young men. They needed a purpose. They wanted a leader. They wanted someone to show them the passion in life. They wanted something. They saw something that we humans have forgotten. This is something we don't have in our society anymore. Like there's just a sort of passion that's just not there. There's a sort of meaning and purpose that's just not there. Like the exploring and the conquest and the finding new land and new things and making new things and innovation and inventing things, having a national identity, having a communal identity, a family identity, having a religious identity, all of these different identities that made life meaningful and made you feel like you had a strong identity. But now all the different status games that we play are kind of degenerate and a bottomless pit of meaninglessness and nihilism. You understand what I mean?
People are looking for answers.
Right, because we were promised the sort of Francis Fukuyama end of history, everything's going to be great and globalist, and you're going to have, and to a certain extent, we do have that in a materialistic sense. I mean, I can go online and order some crap from China and get it in 2 days, right? But it doesn't give me any moral or spiritual fulfillment at all. I mean, everything is sort of just built on this. Well, it's built on sand, right? There's nothing underneath. And I think you're right in that it leads people to just search for answers. A lot of millennials, with the extremifying nature of the internet, then end up sort of latching themselves onto certain identities as a way of explaining everything. And it's something that I've thought about a lot lately, is that you have to be able to, I think about these things at different levels if you're going to be able to survive it. Because if not, you're just going to go crazy, or you're going to bounce off it. So you're either going to go back into the matrix, so to speak, you're going to be a normie, or you're going to, well, in extreme cases, you end up being a transsexual, right, and doing... What's the term now? Gender affirming care. Is that it? Yeah.
I think that's the term. Yeah.
Yeah, doing horrible things to your body, right? That's the other side, because you just go into la la land essentially. And if you can't come to terms with that, you either, as you said, you bounce off or you go crazy. So, or you become extremely online, I guess, as the term is.
Hello. Hej hej. Hej hej. God morgen. Ha det bra, vän. Well, I have to say, this chap looks an awful lot like me. Bit of a family resemblance, you could say. One thing I can't get over yet is just how quiet Bergen is, how quiet most of these cities are. You know, Norwegians are not very loud people. Just one vehicle that's about the loudest it seems to get unless you go right into the downtown area. But it's just so quiet out here. I love it. It's super, super peaceful. I'm kind of a loud person, so yeah, I must have inherited that from my Swedish side or something.
You can look at society on a high level, on this, let's call it the Spenglerian level, right? You can look at, you can analyze society on the Spenglerian level and look at the problems that are facing us, which is a lot of what you're asking me now, like what is facing us as a society.
These are the people that make the most money from OnlyFans.
I'm wearing the pants, he's wearing the skirt, we're both gay.
Nincs az a pénz, ami ide migránsokat engedjünk be. És nincs az a pénz, amiért mi LMBTQ aktivisták kezére adnánk a gyerekeinket, vagy az unokáit.
Multicultural society. That's pretty cool.
But why is the country Felix such a crime-ridden dystopia, enslaved by corporations? Wow, what a weird coincidence.
Hey, you racist piece of shit! How dare you! God, I'm sorry about Edgar.
Drag queen performing in front of infants. We have to heavily blur it.
Are we, in the civilizational fall, the winter, etc.? I'm lucky because I'm born into fall. I'm going to be able to do just fine. It's going to hit my kids or my grandchildren. Those are the ones who's going to suffer. I'm lucky that I've noticed it. And maybe that's because I am a millennial. I'm the first we are the first generation, or maybe Gen X to some extent, are the first who had the ability to notice that something was off. But you have to have a longer horizon when you're thinking about solutions, because you're not going to be able to fix this in your lifetime, I think.
Why are people starting to look to...
Well, because the mainstream aren't really providing solutions. They've provided temporary sort of fixes. Every time we go to Britain, it's like, wow, what happened? Right? It's just run down. They've always been sort of the European hegemony. Right? All of their buildings are kind of just falling apart, and it's very sad to see.
Centre of a British city, a major British city. Homeless people just sleeping rough. You can't help but think when you see things like this that Britain's glory days, Britain's best days are so long gone and so far behind us. And the truth is, I can't see how we ever get them back. We used to build things like this, magnificent buildings. And look at the squalor and what it's been reduced to. Look, it's even got up here a mosaic, the Spanish Armada, leaving Spain to come be defeated by the British.
So I kind of reject that the mainstream is providing any solutions. It's just providing band-aid fixes on top of band-aid fixes. And that can only work for so long, right? Eventually the foundations will start to crumble. And this problem isn't just a small thing, it's actually a fundamental problem. That's sort of the, I guess, the red pill moment for a lot of people, right? You can just explore from that. It becomes that old chestnut of, you know, if they were lying about X, what else are they lying about, right?
I think nobody has the answers because it's a big task, and you know, we Norwegians as well, we are suffering from the same like, I would almost say, like parasitic way of thinking. So we also have like this big like LGBT stuff, and politically like very left-wing people in charge. So yeah, we have the same problems as like everywhere in the West. So it's like it's a global trend. It's no longer like only in the US. It's like everywhere in the West.
Not as many police around here in Norway, very compared to America.
Yeah, don't really need police when it's no crime. But yeah. But we have in Bergen, like lately, it's been like a little bit of a bad trend.
Yeah, lots of graffiti too, I noticed.
Yeah. So, yeah, and we kind of have the same problems as Oslo because of you know, immigration and so on. So there has been like crimes, but it's most like in bad areas. Like usually, it's pretty safe in Bergen.
No, I'll tell a funny story because it you know, what happened was that it's a really stupid thing actually, and it's not so, but it did change a little bit about me. So what happened was that on my first TikTok account, I got it to 1,000 followers, and then that TikTok account actually got banned because I quoted a Norwegian streamer called Thomas Camprock, the King.
Hallo, Thomas Camprock, the King I am.
Or, you know, his Norwegian name is Thomas Leirstein, so it's just directly translated to Camprock. It's like a streamer and YouTuber. It tries to, it's not really so famous in Norway, but he tries to, you know, create a shock factor. Tries to say crazy stuff in order to get attention. And so I quoted, there was a video on him on TikTok, and I quoted something he said, right, on a video about him, in quotation marks. But then what he said was, you know, a bunch of threats about violence and like, you know, killing people and stuff.
No!
And so the Norwegian police thought that I was saying that I'm going to kill a bunch of people because it was in like him saying it. So I'm gonna do this. And so the police got a hold of me through my TikTok account, my first one. It got banned, so it just completely disappeared. And so the police came home to me, came in, and they were like talking to my parents, and I was like upstairs gaming. And so I just sat in the, you know, they came up, I talked to them. I was just sitting, you know, sweating in my in my gaming chair, you know, give me a piece of paper. I was like, oh, what is this? And I just started laughing, and they're like, you know, this is a serious matter. And it's like, all right, yeah, I'm being serious. They took my computer, my PlayStation, every phone that I've previously had too, like they didn't even work anymore, so it doesn't matter. So then they, you know, arrested me. It was like very boring being in there. I couldn't sleep at all. I was in there for like 15 hours. Hold on, by the way, I just gotta make a move in Hoi 4 here. World War II just started right here, so this is an important moment. I was supposed to do a hearing or like a interview, you know, police interview about this case. It lasted about 4 hours. But in there, the guy that interviewed me and was writing their legal document a lot, he was telling me about, you know, how, you know, he showed me like pictures of my World War II relics, and he thought like I was, they were suspecting I was some type of Nazi, right? Because it was like Nazi-related themes in the comment that was made by Thomas Kamprok that I quoted, and I was like, no, you know, I'm not a Nazi, or anything like that. But the interesting part is that they asked me about my opinions about BLM and other left-wing political movements. And that was kind of strange to me, because I was like, well, I don't really see how that's relevant. Basically, I just said, well, I don't really have an opinion on that, because I was like, yeah, who cares? You know, they took pictures of all my, you know, World War II relics, my you know, my knives from World War II. That was from my grandpa. Took all my bunch of stuff from my closet and went through it. You know, I just gave them my password to my phone and everything, because I had nothing to hide. There was nothing. They wanted to see basically if I was a far-right extremist, basically, and if I had any intentions of doing any violence or terrorism. They found out, yeah, so there's nothing here. And then I was released from the prison the day after. It shows that no matter, like, I wasn't even a big guy. I had 1,000 followers, but it can be anyone. Like, if you comment the wrong thing, they can basically come to your house and arrest you for terrorism, or if you can also be arrested for hate speech, or like if you call someone a whore, if you call, you know, it's called äreskränkelse. It's like hurting someone's honor, hurting someone's image. You can be arrested for that. So it kind of changed my perspective, that if you say the wrong thing, you say an edgy joke, and people do that online all the time. But if you trigger the wrong people, they can basically come to your house, get all your stuff, get a warrant, and just go through all your phones, all your local stuff. So I mean, that's like no privacy. Like I'm lucky I didn't have anything to hide, but what if it was someone else, right? That was doing something that is illegal but not, you know, necessarily immoral. It's not that state is the the moral compass that we need to follow. Yeah.
This is very local. Like, this is like, if you search on Google, I don't think you will find this. Like school, like children's school, where I went to.
Oh wow!
So but this is also like super old school. But a lot of memories from here.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's insane.
I'm sure. We Americans move so often.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That, you know, it's been a long time since I've seen my old school, but yeah, lots of nostalgia, lots of memories.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I think Americans move on average like 7 or 8 times in their lives.
That's insane. Yeah, for us that's, I think, maximum 2 times.
Okay. Yeah. It's probably healthier to move less. I mean, our ancestors.
It's very stressful to move a lot. Yeah. Just came back from school.
Man, we've got our own little guides here, showing us. All right, hold. Now you can go.
They're guiding us. Yeah. But when you say like the point, what do you like?
Peninsula.
Peninsula. Okay. Yeah. So at the end of the peninsula there, a jarl called Håkon the Good, he fought a big battle on the ships, which he lost. And he was severely wounded. He was bleeding out, and his men wanted to take him to the city, Bergen, to heal him. But he wanted to go back to his homeland, where he died an honorable death. So we have a memory stone for him out there, and yeah, very interesting. I just love getting back into the nature. It's you know, it's like a meditation, you know. Like you can literally like lift them up if you want to. Wow. They still stand.
Look at this.
It's insane.
So this was built Probably around the time America was built.
Yeah.
And still standing. And you see these like gaps in it. You could just go right under where a deer could go through. Yeah, very rocky. I can see why people struggled to farm this land.
Not very good like soil, you know.
The things which make the land beautiful make it hostile.
Exactly. The more beautiful it is, the harder it is to live there, you know. High risk, high reward.
I have to wonder, would this have been my home if my ancestors hadn't had to cross the Atlantic those generations ago? Is it still my home? What sort of man would I have grown up to be here?
So, if you could see a little bit longer, you could probably see Scotland from here, which is insane.
Do you think the curvature of the Earth prevents it?
Yeah, yeah. If not, you could probably see it.
Wow. Hey Scotland bros, what's up? Shout out Nathan CJ Hood. So we were just to follow this fish. Say fish, Newcastle.
That way. It's pretty insane. Heimdall, it's well known. These are like salmon farms.
Oh, okay.
There are like hundreds of these, like also back there.
So that one.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the industry of Bergen.
Like to keep to ourselves. We don't want to just be alone. Norwegians are a kind of good example is that we value privacy, but if they intrude on our privacy, the government or other institutions, we kind of like, well, I don't have anything to hide, so then it's fine.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of the mentality we have because we don't step out of line because we kind of just want to stay safe, I guess.
Yeah, we just don't want anyone to bother us. That's the thing, and that can be a good quality in one sense. The problem is that it makes us could make us a bit pushover, right? When it comes to that stuff. And I know you asked me about Knut Hamsun and his literary influence, and I think Growth of the Soil is a very good example of this. I mean, I like that book or his works because he sort of captures that sort of archetypal Norwegian spirit in a way, in the whole book is essentially about a guy who's basically just tilling his fields while the world changes around him. And he does interact with the world sparingly, but it's kind of just like, well, I'm just gonna not make any trouble and continue living the way I have, and that works until it doesn't, right? So for good or ill, we have that in us. We also have sort of the mercantilism in us and the sort of exploration stuff in us, which is also very good, but it's not necessarily into sort of conflict. It's more just into adventure, very adventurous.
We have a few modern Norwegian controversial, famous individuals. We have, for example, Varg Vikernes, for example.
Varg Vikernes, født 11.2.73, dømmes til en straff av fengsel I 21 år.
This is a secret, even in Norway. But you want to know?
For example, he was someone that's, he has an interesting history with, his band and all that, but, and, the whole, court case and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Vikernes ble dømt for overlagt drap. I tillegg ble han dømt for å ha tent på Holmenkollen kapell I Oslo, Skjold kirke I Rogaland, Åsane kirke I Bergen, og for forsøk på ildspåsettelse av Storetveit kirkes klokketårn I Bergen.
Han siktet for 5 kirkebranner, gravskjenninger, dynamittyveri.
I will drink from your skull. Or will I? Let's find out.
They want to replace our culture with Americanization, with the Judeo-Christian cultures. The Christianity is the root to all problems in the modern world.
It's hard to know
what to do to oppose something. Because dissident voices are not tolerated in the contemporary society. Everybody can relate to Odin and Thor and Freya because it's our religion. We are not Christian. Christianity is a Jewish religion. Christianity was originally a Jewish sect. Baptism is all about a symbolic ritual murder of the non-Jewish, of the Gentile.
But you see that later on he had a YouTube channel and online presence, and we're having a lot of very right-wing, sort of pagan, Norse pagan, opinions.
We cannot free ourselves from this domestication overnight. But we can free ourselves, and we have to.
But you saw that he as well also just kind of stepped down, and now he's just chilling. And if you've seen some of his videos, he just seems like a nice Norwegian guy sometimes.
Førstemann opp en slapp fisk.
He's just sitting in his car yelling at his audience, it seems.
The domesticated cat is not native to Europe. It's an immigrant.
Or chopping wood, or whatever he's doing now.
What do you think of characters like him? Like, how do you think he represents? Do you think he represents the Norwegian rebel spirit a little bit, but also at the same time a little?
In a way, yeah, because I mean it's hard to say, because despite the things he did, he also got thoroughly sort of ground down by the system in his punishment, and his response to that was basically just to fuck off and live somewhere else. Essentially, he just wanted to be left alone, right? So he's in France now, building a farm there, which is sort of like the same thing, right? But his reaction, and something that I think has been lost a bit in the sort of black metal movement that he was a part of. And I think it's important to remember that a lot of the guys, even though he was the most extreme, a lot of the guys were on board with the things they were doing, not necessarily talking about burning churches, but they're sort of anti-Americanism, for example. I mean, he'll tell stories about how they used to, I'm not sure if they used actual guns or BB guns, but they used to shoot at McDonald's signs, right? When McDonald's was first arriving in Norway, right? And as with anything that's edgy, as we talked about a bit earlier, I mean, there's some truth to it in the original conception of the movement, right?
I mean, they're onto something real. Like, there is something real that is hard to describe within that.
I understand, yeah.
Within that, like, there's the beauty of the culture and the beauty of the history and language and all the development and the identity of the people, national identity, cultural identity, like that is beautiful. Yeah. So it's like you look at all the different, for example, the engravings on the Viking swords, like what they created was beautiful. Yet I don't think we should worship our ancestors the way that some of the Norse pagans are trying to make it. I think we should definitely honor our ancestors, but we shouldn't worship them. I just don't think they do a great job at creating a counterculture, because when I've encountered them, it's too much degeneracy and chaos.
And looking at, everything's going to go to shit, okay, sure, but I mean, we've accepted the civilizational cyclical model, which means that, okay, well, after that, something, better can thrive. It could lead to something better, but it's up to us to at least give the philosophical tools and maybe the practical ones as best we can, and pass them on, because they weren't passed on to us.
We could, sing a few songs as our ship sinks, and be happy anyhow. The fall of the West is nothing but a rebirth of something better.
It's something in the Nordics, in a lot of the Anglos, where this sort of defiance in defeat is just kind of it invigorates us, it gives us hope. I mean, Tolkien basically wrote a bunch about this in Lord of the Rings. That's half of his work, is basically, characterizing sort of Rohan as like a Nordic spirit, fighting, in my opinion at least, fighting despite, their sort of inevitable downfall. And because they do that, and that's, I guess, where Tolkien brings in the Christianity, right? His sort of amalgamation of this is because they fight when everything is desperate. The sort of the hand of God, metaphorically, reaches down and rescues Rohan as a civilization, albeit in a different form than what it was before.
I wanted to go to America. I got placed with a family in Wisconsin, in Pittsville, rode on ATVs, played American football. And then in Pittsville, they had about 800 inhabitants. Everybody there knew me, because in Norway we have like these private clubs for sports, but here in Pittsville, all the teachers were also involved on the football team. They were like, you know, they were someone's father, but they were also part of the coaching team, and they were helping people out. But for the most part, people were either Lutheran, Christian, or Catholic. So they were less educated than you would like Christians to be, but still kept the same sort of values. So most people in Norway are baptized, but it's not even like lukewarm Christianity. It's just out of tradition. It's like, oh, it's something nice to do. I just felt more at home in Pittsville than I ever felt at home. And I saw the difference between the more Christian society in America and the sort of secular society in Oslo. And then I just kind of realized, you know, what is this? I don't really feel at home here. And one day I kind of was just laying in bed, just flat, just looking up into the ceiling. And then I just felt like I wasn't having an emotional breakdown. I wasn't really feeling any sort of type of way. I just kind of felt like God was trying to reach out to me. I just kind of felt it in my heart. I just felt like, you know, there was like this very unique feeling of God that was reaching out to me. And I just realized, you know, from this moment on, I was just like, hey, God, you know, I've been rejecting your existence for so long, but from this day on, I'll believe in you. That's it. That's what I said. And, you know, yeah. I mean, just saying that out loud just gives me chills, man. It's just pure emotion right there. Can't even speak properly. But it just means so much to me because, you know, discovering God, all of a sudden, it gave me more purpose. And that's when I started moving towards God. Not so much towards Christianity, because I didn't really know too much about it, but I was just like, God, that's like unnegotiable for me anymore.
The Stavkirke, the stave church, is unmatched. Like much architecture in the north, it contends with the harsh elements, the pressures of snow and wind and rain. Stave churches are utterly committed to expressing and channeling the northern spirit and consciousness and the northern soul, the northern hugr, through architectural design. They thrust up to the sky like a weft of spears, composed only of pointed edges, shingles like scales of a sea beast, and longship-style dragon prows in place of gargoyles. The commitment to wood, across which winding, abstract iconographic patterns are intricately hand-carved, inside and out, gives the churches an animate quality unlike anything else. Standing here, I felt an incredible spiritual connection to this place, unlike any other places I've been. A profound sense of peace, an infusion of courage, and an opening of the imagination. I've been told there used to be thousands of these stave churches across Scandinavia where my ancestors worshipped. Fortunately, we have not yet lost the knowledge of how to construct them. We're even building a few in America. Although not as colossal nor as extravagant and weighty as the awe-inspiring stone cathedrals across the West, the stave church harkens to the primal designs of God's creation, with Northern Europe's sharp coniferous trees, its gnarled, twisting roots, beautiful and secretive animals, and the jagged, fearsome mountains which invite the eyes up to the sky. They are a distinct expression of the Gothic spirit and style. Each stave church is unique in size and design, but with shared core DNA. All of a sudden, I realized that this lone Fantoft stave church in the heart of Bergen is the fulcrum for the future of the Scandinavian people. The stave church is a sword that cuts the heart like it does the sky. Will we hide it with fences as a historical artifact to a dead god, careful not to prick ourselves on its sharp edges? Will we burn it to ash again as a sacrifice to the northern gods? Or will we join within it once more to honor Christ and claim salvation?
This right here. This is the land my ancestors fought to obtain. Nobody has mastered it except for the Norwegian people, because nobody else wanted to. They had no will, they had no motivation, they had no reason to, but we saw something that was beyond the vision of everybody else. Til Dovre faller, til Dovre faller, fedrelandet.